Sorry, I couldn't help myself. That was a bad joke. This is another puzzle that I'm doing. This one was sent to me, and this is my second attempt at doing it, but this is such a good puzzle, I felt that it was worth doing again. The puzzle is called The Horse Whisper by Zombie Hunter, and I will provide links to the puzzle below. I will admit, while I don't think the puzzle is ridiculously difficult, I did get stuck the first time I did it. I missed a couple of things that really should have been more obvious than I was finding them. I just went down the wrong rabbit hole, and I actually don't have a problem with, if I get stuck on a puzzle, coming back and trying to solve it again, so that people, if anyone sees this video, that people can actually see the puzzle, because I really think it's worth it. And I'll own up that if the puzzle defeats me, I'll come back and do it again, so people get a chance to see it. And I'll call out where, I don't remember the exact solve path, but I will call out where I remember the specific tricks that I got stuck on. So this is a puzzle with quite a lot of different rules in it. Some of them, most of them are fairly standard variants, and I'll go through those now. As I said, there'll be links to the solving page, solving links below, including a link to this puzzle on Logic Masters Germany, which is where Zombie Hunter sent me to get the puzzle. So normal Sudoku rules apply. So rows, columns and boxes must all contain 1 to 9. The green lines are German whispers lines, which means that they must, any digit on these lines must have a difference of 5 or more. This is an anti-knight puzzle, so digits within the grid cannot be a knight's move apart. So, for example, if I'll use the standard one that seems to happen on YouTube videos, if this was a 1, not only can I not put 1 in all of these cells, but I also cannot put 1 in any of these cells, because they would be seen by a move of 2 in one direction and 1 in the other. So a chess knight's move. The grey lines in the grid, of which there are 3, are palindromes, which means that the digits placed on the palindrome must be readable in forward and backwards. So, for example, if this was a 3, this would have to be a 3. If this was a 2, this would have to be a 2. If this was a 1, this would have to be a 1. So that what was on this would read 3, 2, 1, 6, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 6, 1, 2, 3. So it must read the same in either direction. There is a blue circle here, and this is what Zombie Hunter has called an oddruple, which means it is indicating the number of digits touching this circle that must be odd. In this case it's a 4, so all of those digits must be odd. And then there are some cages in the grid, and these cages must sum to the total given, which is 2A or 3A. So this must be 2 times whatever that cell is, and this cage must total 3 times whatever that cell is. He does specifically call out that digits may repeat within a cage. So, for example, that digit and that digit could be the same. In fact, they must be the same, because this is a palindrome. So, unlike normal killer cages, where digits cannot repeat, in this puzzle, digits can repeat within cages. So, they're the rules of the puzzle. There's quite a few of them, but I actually found this puzzle to be, it's quite challenging, but I really did find this to be an interesting puzzle. So let's see if I can solve it again. So the first place I wanted to start was this German whispers line, because it was quite long. So I remember starting by basically just highlighting the alternate squares, because on any German whispers line, and if you haven't seen this before, it might be a little bit new to you, but on any German Whispers line, what you will end up with is if you were to put a digit in a cell which was, well, first of all, you cannot put a 5 on a German Whispers line, because if you put a 5 on a German Whispers line, because they must differ by at least 5, if I was to put a 5 somewhere, then the digit next to it must either be 0 or 10, which doesn't work. So if you were to put a low digit, say a 1 through 4, because it must differ by at least 5, the next digit must be between 6 and 9, and then the next digit must be between 1 and 4. So they actually alternate high, low, high, low, high, low. So when you get German Whispers lines, you can often do this and look to see whether there are patterns. The other thing you can often look for is, for example, we know 5 is going to be in one of those 3 squares, and on this line we know 5 is going to be in one of those 3 squares. Now it doesn't seem to be enough, pardon me, to give us a restriction at the moment, but that might get us somewhere. I'm not seeing anything directly with this, unfortunately. But we do know that these digits need, all of these 4 digits need to be odd. So that's worth remembering, because this is the oddruple. But this is important to remember, because what we've got down here is we've got cages that must sum to 2 and 3 times this digit. So if we look at the minimums we can put into these cages, so for example, the minimum we could put into those 3 cells is 1, 2, and 3. And the minimum we could put into those 2 cells is 1 and 2. So that's 6, and that is 3, which brings us to a minimum of 9. So the minimum of this cell must be 4.5. So half of 9. So 4.5 isn't possible, so that brings us up to 5. You can never put a 5 on a German Whispers line, so all of a sudden we know that this has to be the high digit, and we know that the yellow cells must be high. And I use orange for high and blue for low, and I just forgot that and happened to colour them blue. So this must be high, because if this was 4, then all of a sudden we had to make this total to 8, and we hit 6 here, and they'd both have to be 1, and we've just blown the total. So these must be 6, 7, 8, and 9. These must be 6, 7, 8, and 9, except this is on the oddruple, so they can't be 6 and 8, and we've already got a 7, 9 pair in the grid. That means this must be a 6 or an 8, except if this was a 6, and this is another trick with the German Whispers line, if this was a 6, the only number that you can have next to 6 that is 5 different within 1 to 9 is a 1, and both of those would have to be 1. So that has to be an 8. 4 is not far enough away, so they both become 1, 2, and 3. And whichever one is a 7 will drop 3 out of the possibilities of those. These are 6, 7, 8, and 9, but if that was a 6, they'd both have to be 1, so that can't be a 6. If that was a 6, they'd both have to be a 1, so they can't be a 6. These have to be 6, 7, 8, and 9. If that was a 6, both of those would have to be a 1. That cannot be a 6. And if that was a 6, both of those would have to be a 1, and that's possible. Into these cells we put 1, 2, 3, and 4. If this was a 4, both of those would have to be a 9, and that would normally be possible, except there is an anti-knights constraint, and both of those see each other by knight's move, so that cannot be a 4. If that was a 4, that would both be 9. If that was a 4, both of those would be 9. Again, the anti-knights constraint means that that cannot be a 4. If that was a 4, they would see each other by anti-knights constraint. This can be a 4 because this could be a 9. And we get down to that. So where do we go now? This is an oddruple, so that can't be 2. So we've got 7 and 9, so this has to be 1, 3 or 5. Ah, that's interesting. There is a 7-9 pair here, and these must be different. So this cell, which sees both of those by knight's move, cannot be a 7 or a 9 and must be an 8. Is there anything similar happening here with those? That would see both of those, but not that one. Not seeing anything. Whatever goes in there is knocked out of both of those, and vice versa. So these must be different. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything I can do with that. I fully expect other people will. Row 3 is interesting. So if we look at row 3, we've got 1, 2, 3. And in box 1, we've got 7, 8 and 9. So that means these cells have to be from 4, 5 and 6 because they see 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. And you can't put 5 on a German whispers line. So because we know 4 can only go next to 9 and 6 can only go next to 1, we get a 4, 6 here and a 1, 9 here. That doesn't lock anything down. There's a lot of options over here because I can still use 4, 5, 6, 7 and 9 on those. The only reason I was more limited in this box is because it saw 2 different triples. This is where... no, it's not. There is a trick coming up that I did spend ages finding, but I'm not up to it yet. This is a trick that did take me a while though. Okay, so there's an interesting interplay between these cells. So because of the German whispers line, if this was to be a 7, this would have to be a 1. Because this would be a 7, this would become a 9, and because of this 1-9 pair, this would become a 1. So if this was a 7, this would be a 1 because 3 is not far enough away. This would become a 9, and the 1-9 would make this a 1, and you would end up with 2 1s in the column. So this cannot be a 7, and it has to be a 9. So we now know the total of this is 18. So 2 times 9 is 18. So this is where I think we need to think about this palindrome. So these 2 digits and these 2 digits are going to be the same. So when we add these and these together, we're going to end up with an even number, and 18 is an even number. So whatever goes in here must be even. So if this was an odd number and we add 2 even numbers to it, the total would be odd, but we know that this has to total 18, so that won't work. So this must be 2, 4, 6 or 8. If this was 4, this would have to be 9, being the only digit on a German whispers line that can go adjacent to a 4, but we've just put a 9 in the column. So this can't be 4. So there's a restriction here. And this is the trick I think that took me a long time to find. So I'm not going to have you sit and wait through it. Feel free, if you want to try and find this on your own and you aren't trying to solve this on your own grid, to pause the video and see if you can find the trick, because I thought it was really good trick. One of the nicest piece of logic I've seen done with a combination of German whispers lines like this. But I'm about to spoil it for you. So here goes. So the thing you need to look at is the parity of this line. So those three cells are all going to be the same parity. So you want to ask yourself, what happens based on the parity of these cells? So we know that this cell is restricted to 2, 6 or 8. So this would be a 2 if these were high. So we've got another restriction on what happens if these are high, because this 8 sees both of those cells. So there's a lot of pressure on these cells if the yellow is high. So we know that we would end up with 6 and 1 because that would be forced. These two cells would have to be 7 and 8 because we've already placed 6 and 9. 8 can't go here, so this would be 8 and this would be 7. Because we've said that this is low because the yellow is high, this would be 2, but this is a 7. We've put a 1 next to the 7, and the only other number that can go next to a 7 is a 2. So I'll actually put the digits in to show you this. You would end up with a conflict. I'll actually put the digits in to show you, and then I'll roll back. But this is seeable, but it is a little tricky. So if we're putting this in as high, this becomes 6, this becomes 1. This will have to be a 2 because we're saying that these digits, the not yellow digits on the line, are low. This is left from 7 and 8. This 8 makes this a 7 and this an 8, and the only digits that can go next to 7 on a German whispers line are 1 and 2. There's a 1 in the box, we have to put in a 2, and we've hit a conflict. That is kind of tricky to see, but I believe it is telegraphed well by this 8, and the fact that 2 being the only low puts a lot of pressure on this line. So I do believe this puzzle does point you in the direction of being able to find that. So what it does mean is these cells are low, which means that's a 4, that's a 9, that's not a 2, because these cells are high. This is not a 4. And now we've got some things to think about. I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what comes after this, because this is the bit where I got stuck, and then after this I just sort of muddled my way through the puzzle. So now I'm back to muddling. Okay, that 9 means this is not a 9. So we know this is 1, 2, 3, this is 1, 2, 3, this is 6, 7, 8. It can't be 6 because I can't put 4 in both of those. This could be 1, 2, so that could be 7. This can't be 4, this can be 1, so that can be 6. Is it what makes this come to total 18? It might be. So these cells either have to sum to 10 if this is an 8, or 12 if this is a 6. So if they, and they have to be the same. So what's the highest digit you can put into one of these? So if we were to put a 6 into one of these, you would end up with 12 in one of those immediately. And then even with a 6 you've hit 18 and you haven't put anything into the others. So you can't put a 6 into any of these at all. So we know this is a low digit and this is a high digit. So this is 1, 2, 3 or 4. Which means this is 1, 2, 3 or 4. But this has to sum to 10 or 12. So these have to sum to 5 or 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this has to be a high digit. So this will be 6, 7 or 8. And that's simply because that digit, that digit, that digit, that digit, and that digit must all be lower than 5 or lower. This can't be a 4. So it's 1, 2, 3 or 5. This is 1, 2, 3 or 5. So these must total. It's getting tricky. So 10 or 12. So to make that equal 10, there's no way to make that equal 10. Oh no, I have to make each of those equal. Hang on. Have to make. If this is a 6, I have to make each of those equal 6. So it'd be 5, 1, 5, 1. I'm not seeing it. That 7 is seen there. So that can't be a 7. That gives me a 6, 8 pair. That becomes a 7. These can't be a 3 anymore. They're a 1, 2 pair. There's no 1 there. That can't be a 1. That can't be a 1. These can't. That can't be a 2. That can't be a 2. So this is a 3 or a 5. So I'm going to do these again. Now remember, they must be low. So these are a 3-5 pair. Now if these are totaling 6, these are 1 and 1, which would make that a 2, that a 1. There you go. If this is a 6, these are 5, 1, 5, 1, which means you cannot put a 1 there. But if this is a 6, this has to be a 1 because of the German whispers line. This has to be an 8. Because if, I'll show you that again, if you put a 6 here, the only way you can put 6 in here, because you can't put 3, 3. 3, 3 is impossible. This would be a 5, 1, meaning this is a 2, and you've put a 6 next to a 2 on a German whispers line, which does not work. This is an 8, which means these must total 5 on each side, which means both of these are 3, not 5. And if both of these are 3 and they must sum to 5, these must be 2s, which means that's a 1, that's a 2. Whew, that's a trick. And I'm going to take the green out of those so I don't lose track. That 3 makes that a 5, which makes that a 6. That 8 makes that a 6. It puts a 6 down here somewhere. This is a 1, 2, or a 3, but it's not seeing enough. This is now 5, 7, or 9, so this becomes 5, 7, or 9. Those two can't be 9 because they're on a palindrome and they see that 9. Okay. Where can 8 go? 8 can go in those two. But if 8 was there, this would have to be high. And we know it can't be 6, 7, or 9. And if we put 8 there, it can't be 8. So we can't put 8 there. 8 must go there. We've now got 6, 7, 8, and 9 already in this column. So these two are low. And this is a high digit. We've got 1, 2, and 3 already in this box. This is a 4. The only digit that can go next to a 4 on a German whispers line is a 9. So there's a 2 and a 4. So this has to be a 1, 3, and we've got a 1, 3 pair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. This is a 5, which means this is a 6, 7 pair. That doesn't quite reach. These might be restricted though. So we've got 1 can go in there. So let's look at the numbers. 1, 3, 4, and 5. 4 C's there. 4 C's there. So that's the only place left for a 4. 1 C's there. Be in the right mode, Bremster. 1 C's there. I'm not sure I can restrict it any more than that. Now I've got 2 3s down here from these palindromes, which puts it 2, 3 up there. This is a high digit which can no longer be 9, so it's 6, 7, and 8, and it can't be 6 because 6 would need to be next to 1. So this is a 7 or an 8. So this row has a lot of this palindrome on it and a lot of this cage in it and is mostly complete. So the digits missing from here are 1, 5, 6, 7, and 9. And we know that 1, 5, and 9 must be in this cage. Now, that's 15, and this cage sums to 9 times 3, which is 27. So we need to get 14. No, wait. How does this work? So we've got 159 with either 6 or 7. So if we, because the other one will be over here. So 159 is 15. If we add 6, we've got 159 and 6 is 21. And to get to 27, we need to add 6. If it's 159 and 7, we've got 22. And to get to 27, we need 5. So this is a 5 or a 6. Otherwise, this math doesn't work. So the third cell along the palindrome is a 5 or a 6. And remember, digits can repeat within cages. But both of these are going to be the same. Does that knock them out of there? I don't think it does. Like, I can't remove 5 and 6. One of them is going to double, and the other one I think has to be over there. No, that's 6 or 7. So I can't quite make a restriction on that yet. Can't put a 5 on a German Whispers line. This digit and this digit are the same. So they have to, and that means that in this row they're there, in this row they're there. So in this row they'll have to go in those 3 cells, and I can't put a 6 up there. So these must be 5. And that's just using the positioning of the Sudoku. So there's no 5 in there. So this is 1679. But if there was a 5 in there, I've now got 10. I now need to get to... I now need another 17. And the only way to get to 17 is with 1, 9, and 7. So there's no 6 in there. That's the 6. That's the 7. Whew. This is 1, 7, or 9. That's putting a fair bit of pressure on this, I think. Not sure yet. Now, these 2 digits are going to go in there, which means they have to go up there, the same logic as with the 5. So if I put a 7 in one of those 2, they'd go down there and then have to go up there, so I can't do it. So that has to be the 7, and these are a 1, 9 pair. 7 is now in one of those 2 because it sees there by knight's move. This is tricky. This is really tricky. I'm wondering if there's any basic Sudoku I'm missing. Well, 9 can't go there or there, so 9 is in one of those 2, which takes 9 out of there, but I don't think that does any... That means that can't be 4, because 4 must go next to 9. So that reduces that. There's a 2 that's not there. Six. 3 means that's not a 3. Feel free to mention in comments what I'm missing, because I know it's something. Five must go in one of those two, but I've already got that. 8 is up there, but that's not seeing anything. I've got this resolved, so is it this German whispers line? So those are the same parity. That would, if that was high, it would have to be 8 or 9, because it sees 6 or 7, which would make that a 7. Those 5s. No, because that could be a 9. What am I talking about? Well, this can't be a 2 because of the knight's move. Is there more I can do down here? Like, what digits haven't I put in here? Like 4 is in one of those two. Eight is in one of those two, because that 8 sees there and that 8 sees there. Is it that cell? Because that cell can't be a 1. It can't be a 2. It can be a 3. Both of those 4s see it. Can't be a 5. So this is 3 or 6. Can't be a 7. Both of the 8 see it, and it can't be a 9. Can I eliminate? So 6. 6 is limited to those 3 cells, all of which see that. So that has to be a 3. Because all of those 3 cells, which are the only place for 6, all see that as well. So that's a 3. Which makes that a 1, that a 2, that's not a 2. We've now got a 1, this, if it was low, could only be a 3 or a 4. No, it could only be a 4. So if this is low, this would be a 4, this would be a 9. Yeah, that seems a lot of pressure. It seems to work though, because then this could be anything. Well, this would be 1, which is still matching the low. Oh, there's an 8 looking at that. That's a 6, which means that also has to be a 1. Put 6 down here in one of those 2 cells. This is getting a lot of pressure in both directions, but I can't... Well, there's no 3 in there anymore. So what are these digits? They're 2, 4, 6, 8. That can't be 6 because it sees both of those. So this is also 4, 6 or 8, but that one can't be 6, so it's 4 or 8. What am I missing? Please tell me. That can't be a 1 anymore. So that's a 3. There we go. That 1 means that that can't be a 1 anymore. So that becomes a 1. That can't be a 3. That can't be a 3. That becomes a 3. This is a 1-2 pair. There's a 2 there looking over it, making that a 1, making that a 2. That 1 makes that a 3. That's got to put some pressure on something. 3 and 3 makes that a 3, which makes that a 5 and that a 3. This has to collapse things. 3 and 3 means 3 is in one of those two, but that 3 sees that spot, so that's a 3. 3, 3 puts 3 in one of those two, but there's a 3 up there, so that's a 3. That's probably all the 3s. Yes, it is. 2, 2 puts 2 in one of those 3. It can't be in the middle. So 2 is in one of those two. 2 is not in there, it's not in there, it's not in there. So 2 is in one of those two. But I'm not seeing how to resolve that. There'll be stuff I'm missing, I'm sure. 5 is there, 5 is there, so 5 has to be along the top. That 5 sees that square, that 5 sees that square, so that has to be a 5. That puts 5 down the middle here. That can't be a 5 for multiple reasons, so we've got a 5 in one of those two. 5 is not in there, 5 is not in there. That puts 5 in one of those two, and you cannot put 5 on a German whispers line. Those two are 5s because of the palindrome. So this is not a 5 and this is a 7-9 pair. That's probably one of the least useful deductions. Although I've now got 4 5s pointing into the middle, and there's a 5 in the middle of the grid. Oh, there's only 2 numbers missing from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's got to be 7 or 9, which means this is high. Which means these are low and that is high. First of all, it means this isn't 2 or 4, which means this is the 2. But second of all, that's a 1. And these have to be low. And we know because of the 1, 3, they've got to be 2 and 4. And you cannot put a 4 there because you'd need to put 9 in both of those. That becomes the 2, that becomes the 4. 4 must go next to 9 on a German whispers line. Oh, this is starting to fall apart in a good way. That 9 makes that a 7. Mustn't forget the Knight's rule. There is 2, 7 and 8, but neither of those can be 7, so that's a 7. These are, there's no 2 there anymore. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 8 go into those two. which does not look resolvable. There's 2, 8. Oh, that's a 2 and that's an 8 because of that 8. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 9. There's got to be something seeing it. If there is, I'm missing it. That's a 9. Puts 9 in one of those two. Which is there because of that 9, which means that is a 7, which means that is a 9. Missing from this column now is just 6 and 8. This is 4, 6 and 8. There's got to be a 1 in one of those two. I'm assuming this is just Knight's Move stuff I am missing. That can't be a 6 because it's next to a 2. That's an 8. There is no 8 down there. That's 4, 6, which makes that an 8, which makes that a 7. That is not a 7. This is now got 1, 2, 3. I think that's the only place for a 4, which makes that a 9 and that a 4. 5, this is a 6. There is a 2, which makes that a 1, which makes that a 9, which makes that a 1. There is no 9 there. I can't put 2 in there. That's the only spot in the box for a 2. So 1, 2, 3, that's now a 4, which means that is not a 4. That 8 is making that a 6, that an 8, that a 6, that an 8, that a 4, that a 6. These two cells need to be 1 and 4. And that just leaves 2 final cells to finish the puzzle. That is a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is a 7. And that finishes The Horse Whisper by Zombie Hunter. I'm sorry I struggled so much in the middle there, but this is a puzzle with a lot hidden inside the horse. It is almost Trojan. I hope you enjoyed the puzzle, and I hope you enjoyed my solve of it. And I would very much like to thank again Zombie Hunter for sending me this puzzle and allowing me to do a video on it. I hope you do enjoy the puzzles I do, and I hope that you will come back to see more of them. Thank you very much.